Michelle, thanks so much for being here. I wanted to ask you if you could share about how you found yoga to begin with.
I I'm naturally curious. It was way before yoga was so mainstream as it is now. Um, it was for hippies and healthy people, and I was a dancer in New York, and I um, a avid philosophy student as well. So I had been reading books by George Feuerstein, particularly. And what appealed to me about the yoga practice was the background, the philosophy of it. And so I was coming in as a dancer who moved. I was professional, and I wasn't there for the physical aspect. I was just wanted to see what happens in a yoga class. And it was on the Upper West Side of New York, the Uptown Integral Yoga Studio. And physically into the class, and I mean, all walks of life in there, all ages, everybody, it's like New York, everybody's in the room. And my first downward dog, whoa, you think you can really handle yourself physically. And I was surprised that I was challenged, but more than that, there was something that happened from the Om in to every quality in that room, the shag carpet, the kind of smell of the years of everybody in there. And it was Ramananda who taught the class, not Swami Ramananda, Ramananda, one of my first teachers. And then I went home, didn't really think much about it till the next day, and something really clicked. And I knew I had to go back. And I hadn't stopped practicing since. It was a period that it was middle to late when you're dancing professionally, age-wise. And I was getting injured a lot for no apparent reason, which, I didn't know why I was getting injured, particularly right before a very important audition. And I just thought, it's me inside. Something's going on. And in the yoga class, it invites you to look at that. And that's what I did. And I was convinced that everything's connected. It's all connected. And I like to say to my students years later when I started teaching, because I practiced for a number of years before I took the integral yoga TTs. And I always tell my students this story too, and say, well, I never really got injured after that first yoga class. So, that's a very broad statement, but, nothing like what was happening before I was practicing. So I was hooked, and I love the integral yoga system. It works. The whole canvas is connected, all of our koshas. And yeah, that's it. That's a little green of it.
For someone who doesn't know what the koshas are, how would you briefly describe the koshas?
I'm not the body, not the mind, immortal self I am. That little mantra. Our physical body is nurtured by everything that we take in, food-wise, our mental body and intellectual body by our environment and how we digest those feelings and impulses in our environment, or antagonists in our environment, and that becomes our impulses, how we digest those. And then at the core is who we naturally all are, all of us, that get to come to life as a human being, as pure bliss, evenness, contentedness. And the koshas can work from outside in, and it can be from inside, the deep inside out. It's not a one-way street. You can work at it both ways.
And you're saying that they're all connected. So even, being in touch with this very core of what I am, this eternal bliss, can have an effect on the health of my physical body.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
that's what I feel like I got from that very first class.
And that's why maybe you were getting injured. Could it be?
Yes.
Beforehand, because there wasn't this deeper connection with yourself happening?
Yeah, I felt like I was sabotaging myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that work? Because you didn't really want to be doing that, or what was going on? You mean like on the kind of the subconscious level?
On a subconscious level, I just kind of figured it out. I kind of figured out who I was, without going through hundreds of thousands of dollars of psychotherapy and hours of that. And I'm not being sarcastic or discounting that. I feel it's very important. I'm a yoga therapist now, actually. But in the end, you can be guided. Of course, we all need to be guided. But in the end, it's us. We have to figure it out, And
you figured something out in that first yoga class, or continued to figure something out?
Well, there's something clicked. And the click was important enough for me to continue to go back. And I never stopped practicing after that. And that was 93, maybe, something like that. Which would be 30 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
Can you remember the click? Can you feel that click? I'm very interested in that, right? Like when all of a sudden clarity emerges in life and it's just so clear. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was the next day. When your little voices, inner voices talking to you, where you just feel, like you said, clarity. Things just felt more clear. It also felt, there's also what's nice, what's wonderful about yoga and live and us coming back is community. And sure, there's community in the dance world too, and working on production and things like that. But a community of people all in a room with not a defined project to work on. Their project is themselves. And you're all working on it in this room together. I never experienced that before. And so, I'm just thinking aloud right now, maybe that was part of it too. And I wanted to go back to that, and this is, fast forwarding to here, this is what I love about teaching as my students come into the room and opening the class and looking at them. And I know where they are, because I was there. And the reason why those are the ones coming into the room, to practice in a group. And, it's creating, compliments to the teacher too. I mean, he created a safe place, a safe space, an open space. And you don't come back if you don't feel that. And this is what I hold on to, that this is always going to be a safe space for anybody, everybody, anything that they're going through. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that within a space, a yoga class, people can have such different experiences? Like someone can be taking the class and then looking around and comparing themselves to others. I think this often happens probably with beginners more, right? And everyone else knows what's going on. They're doing it right. I'm not doing it right. And that creates a separation. But then also it can be what you're talking about, where you can feel connected and together and a sense of community in the class. So it's kind of fascinating. It's like, here's this thing, a class, and it can potentially mean very different things to the individuals experiencing it within.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're saying your job kind of as a teacher, the way that you see it, is to create a sense of safety, maybe also non-competition, would you say, so that people feel more relaxed and have the ability to have a more full experience?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And my classes are very small. I can take care of, all the levels in the room. And that's, it's really easy for me to do that. And I don't feel particularly in this community, that there's any sense of competition or anybody has to be somewhere. I just think they want to be here to be and not do, which is circling back to my first yoga class. I just wanted to be and not do. Yeah.
Yeah. Speak more about that. Because I'm wondering if that, like, can that expand beyond just the mat, right? Like, is that what we want all the time in our lives, is just to be being and not doing?
We do. And that I think this about me. I took a year off to do that. I decided to give myself that. That was 2022, last year. And that was my motivation to go on my little island. No plan, no do, just be. What's it like to commune with nature? My time markers, time posts of the day were sunrise and sunset. Anything in the middle or before or after that, But for 7 months and 7 days, I watched sunrise and sunset every day.
Without an agenda?
No agenda.
Really? So what did you discover?
How much I missed reading.
You weren't allowing yourself to read in the day?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. You're saying, okay, yeah, you had more time for reading. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure most adults and parents like yourself, you're like, gosh, I would just love time for me to open a book. And I counted up the books I read in 2022. I read 45 and I read 33 on my island. And, but it wasn't, it wasn't a competition with myself or a challenge. It was just, I just wanted to really see what I would pick up, what was interesting to me. And, Avi, those 7 months on that island, I think it's going to feed me the rest of my life. It's just, I feel like I got strong. Yeah. It was really good. It's really good.
Can you say more about that? How did you get strong?
Well, you don't know your resilience until, you're faced with the tough stuff. And tough stuff's been happening since. And I feel like, I have the tools. The universe is not going to throw anything at me that I can't handle. And whereas at things where I thought, that this could cause some nervous tension, I'm feeling more grace. Yeah.
And now you've re-engaged. I should say, okay, you live in Paris, right? And you own a yoga studio in Paris, right? So you took time off, and now you came back you're back in Paris, re-engaged with this type of life. And is it very different now, your experience, than the way it was before you took that time off?
Well, as you know, so much life happened just before I took my time off. I mean, the timing was probably awkward, but that was my window of opportunity to leave. We had 2 years of COVID. So as having a yoga studio in that time, that was really hard. And my life moved to online. And then when people were starting to come back to yoga, it was, really, really reluctant Sangha coming back. And teaching for 2 years online exhausted me. It didn't like it. And in 2022, I just looked at the little template of my life, my age, my mom's age. I lost my dad during COVID, my dog's age. And I was like, this is my window of opportunity to take a sabbatical. And I also teach at a university, the University of South Florida. And my colleagues, university teachers, professors, they all have sabbaticals. How come I haven't had one? I have to give it to myself because I'm a teaching instructor. I'm not a professor. So, and I'm older than all of them. And I thought, what am I doing? I've been working since I was 16 years old, never had a break. I'm taking it off now, not because I want to retire. I'm going to work forever, but I need to know how to take breaks. And so, it's you cross your fingers and toes and hope dog family, everybody's going to be okay while you take off. And everybody was. And my senior students, I have yoga therapy students, and, I took a deep breath and said, you do your practices at home every day, stay healthy. I will be back. I didn't lose anybody. So, it was 2022 was a perfect year for me to leave. Now my mom needs more care, and I'm full on for that. And I just came back from a funeral in Italy. I lost my mother-in-law, and my family needs me right now, and I can do it.
And do you think you can do it at a higher level because of the time that you gave yourself?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
So is it, in a way, is it possible that a sense of being can kind of infiltrate the doing? That's what I wonder about that, right? Like the action and inaction and inaction and action type of thing. So it's like you see yourself doing, but it's more yogic, right? It's in a relaxed, accepting way, right?
Mm-hmm. And if you want to go back to Amakosha and the physical kosha, if you look at our bodies as a high performance machine, that, like, let's say, because you're in a car culture, if you had an exquisite racing car, you would only put the best in that car to make it run well. And then when it is running well, it's a combination of, oh, I took care of it. And this is what the machine is supposed to do. If you want to translate that metaphor to us, because, some of us take better care of our cars and stuff than we do ourselves.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. What do you think it is?
Honestly, I kind of feel that it's a cultural problem more than anything. It's that often in society, what I've observed is that it's very socially acceptable to be hard on yourself. Okay, I'll give an example. We both left tennis, so I'll give a tennis example. I play with this group sometimes, and everyone is just so hard on themselves, right? Like almost no one really like celebrates much when they hit a really great shot, but when they mess up, it's and it just, in the language, it's very, very common and acceptable to be hard, self-critical on yourself. And I think that extends to, what we feed ourselves, what we put in the body. And there's also, so there's that. And then there's also, an emphasis on the short term, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to taste the junk food now. Just those short term gratifications. When, if I slow down, step back, look at everything, I see the implications of that. And then I can possibly create more of a long-term strategy for my vehicle, for my car.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's what giving ourselves breaks does. Will do for us is the slowing down. Not everybody is into yoga, but there are ways to live consciously. But at the end of the day, this culture knows how to take a break, to pause. For example, the school system, all the way till 18 years of age, the kids, they go to school 6 weeks and then 2 weeks off. And summer there's 2 months off. So
every 6 weeks they have 2 weeks off.
Every 6 weeks they have 2 weeks off.
Wow.
Now, for some parents, it's ideal for their families. A lot of families have, a family home out in the country, and maybe mom or dad, can take turns and with the kids, and because if you're working, a 2-parent working family, how do you do that? When you've got a small business like this, how do I structure that? Because just before my mother-in-law died, there was a 2-week off period. So it was 2 weeks off. I know that there's not going to be any income coming in. And then I took a break. So, and all small business enterprises, that's the drawback of that. But as far as a global mental health, I see it's good. Yeah.
What's more important than that?
What's more important than that? And long lunches, they start their work day a little later as opposed to US standards. And they work much later. Like usually evening class starts at 7:30, where I would like to start at 6 so I could go home. But they work until 7, but they take a 2-hour lunch. That's de rigueur, 2 hours lunch. And, and you can have a glass of wine and they still get things done. So, okay, it's not perfect, but you have a permission to slow down here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite aspects of yoga, I would say. It's the opportunity to slow down. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I do feel that this is extremely important. Like, we talk about all the different problems in the world, that there are. And I wonder if speed is at the center of it. That normally the issues are happening because I'm moving so fast and I don't give myself the time to relax and investigate. What do I really want to be doing with my time? Even just like asking a question, what do I want to be doing with my time? It's like everything's in a mad rush. I was totally caught in that before I found yoga, I would say. I didn't have permission to be any other way. Just go, 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 go. There's no time to ask those deeper questions.
Mm-hmm. Or to give yourself permission just to sit on the couch and just stare and daydream. Or put off something till tomorrow. I would never put off something till tomorrow. In New York, I was 5-job Jacobi. I was working every day of the week, and you get it done today. And it took even quite a few years of living here before I decided that I could move this until tomorrow and it'll be fine. And I love that. It's one of my favorite things to do now.
That's great. I wonder if the emphasis is on the future as opposed to the present in a way. It's like it's in the looking forward that I'm being really hard on myself now. I'm doing all of these things maybe I don't want to be doing in order to get to a place. This is what I have to do in order to get to the top of that mountain, whatever it is, as opposed to like, yes, I want to work towards something. I enjoy the process of working towards something, but I also know that that's an unknown and that the present moment is extremely important. Therefore, I want to experience life now. I don't want to wait.
Right. And then, young people could look at me and say, well, you're older. You did the fast life when you were younger because, that's a competitive time and you need to do that. And I honor that. I get that. I'm not going to say to somebody that's, that needs to get their game on, take a little break. It's, I think it's knowing how to step back and allowing yourself to just step back and look at the picture a little more deeply. I mean, that's what I would say to my younger self as well. Instead of go, is just breathe, more breathing, step back, look at the whole picture a little more deeply. Yeah. With more clarity. Yeah.
I wonder, if I do that, the answer can be very different depending, on where I'm at. Like it's very individualized. Someone who's maybe been very, lazy, is capable a lot more. They just need to start doing something. Someone else who's been go, they need to take that break and hold on one second, save it for tomorrow. So it depends on the person and where you're at. And what you're saying is to just wherever you're at, take that moment to stop and think, what do I need? One of my favorite things is to see myself in the third person. I don't know if you ever do this, of like, what does Michelle need? You ever do that?
I do.
Yeah. Do you find it to be effective?
I do. Yeah, very much. Yeah. Okay, give me an example of what does Ari need?
Avi,
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
One of my best
asking,
friends is Ari. That just
people get that one confused a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think just asking the question is so powerful. It's just like it's a shift. It's from being in it to being out of it. And it's a little even uncomfortable, I think. It becomes more comfortable, but at the start, it's uncomfortable to see myself like, what does Avi need, right? I'm not used to looking at myself like that, in that way. But the answer that comes like straight away in this moment is balance. What he needs is balance, needs to be out in nature and exercising the body and doing his yoga practices. And he needs time with friends to be socializing, and he needs good food and the right amount of food, and he needs meditation, and purpose. He needs some kind of personal project that he's really passionate about to work on. Yeah. How about you?
Exactly. All the above. And when you, especially, all of it. And when you're working on your personal project and you get in the zone and you just go, oh, how did I step away from this for a while, and that speaks to what you said about ones that can't motivate themselves, and you can get kind of into a lazy funk. And when you step back and see with more clarity what you're doing or how you got into that funk, and then get back into what your zone was, it's like life-saving. I just think that's so that capacity for everyone is so important.
To be honest, I think honesty is the most important aspect of that. So, like, can I be honest with myself? Like, okay, I'm off. I'm not feeling good right now. How do I get back into the zone? Right? Like, I can be honest with myself, or I can be pretending that, nothing's wrong, or that I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. Trying to convince myself. Is it honesty that is most important in directing ourselves?
Yeah. What's your personal project now?
First thing that comes to mind is being a dad. That is a personal project, I think, in a lot of ways. It was my book for a long time, and that was the one where I really saw the benefit of having a personal project. I never really had something I cared about so much, but to be constructing, crafting, building something, working on it day in, day out, and it's mine, it's no one else's. I love it. And I have this new project too, that I'm pretty lit up about. It's very fresh. It's new. I'm even a little hesitant to talk about it. But since you ask, I'll mention it. I'm creating an archives for my family where I'm interviewing individual members, and everyone can have access to it. I was actually inspired by the loss of my grandma the past year, and I just wanted so much, just in the way that I put on a podcast, that I could put on a conversation that she was having with someone where she's being asked about, the story of her life and her life perspective and all of that. So I just got motivated, and now I've been interviewing all my family members and creating this archives for us. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's the greatest gift you can give to your family and the future generations, and your kids' kids and their kids. They're just going to so appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm going to start to do it for other families. This is like
a project. Yeah. So it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. I wanted to start with my family, but with knowing that this is going to expand. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Avi, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. And your book was I looked at my list. Your book was the second book I read in 2022. It was a number 2 position.
I like the number 2.
Yeah, number 2 in 2022. Yeah, no, I admire that, getting that out, because I'm still in I just love to write stage, and I still don't know what form this is yet, and what's the rush, and I'm putting it off till tomorrow. It's not always good. But I really enjoy writing, and I just still don't know if it's going to be like little essays or if it's a short story form. What I love to do when I read is I admire all the possibilities out there. Then I get kind of lost in the possibilities. And anyway, I'm thinking out loud. I should be working on my project.
Yeah. I mean, so often, right? It's like that thing that I don't really want to do once I start doing it. Right. I mean, it's even often with yoga or going to the gym or meditation, there's change is hard, I think. Like out of whatever I'm doing now, it's comfortable. But once I'm there, once you start, it's like, oh, how could there have been any doubt?
Yeah. And I all I need is the tiniest prompt. And that's what I'm hoping that this podcast, and I've watched a few of your podcasts with the others. And that's what I feel so useful about podcasts, that I'm just hoping some listener hears a little something, just a little prompt that was boom, gets them to do something. Because just before I left for Italy, I got one of those prompts. I was sitting at my computer, and it came in from LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, and all I wanted to do was sit there and write, and this whole piece was like in my head, from start to finish, and it'll be there again. But prompts are great.
Prompts are great.
Yeah.
That's how we can, it's like the universe talking to us. It can be through other people or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly.
I want to ask you about, your experience living in different countries, and what prompted you to, move out of the US to begin with, and what you've learned about, similarities of people and different cultures and differences.
It really wasn't that a courageous step for me, because my mom is German. I was born in Germany, and we immigrated together to the US when I was 2. My dad was in the Navy. So even in our young family life, we would go back and forth a lot to Europe. I actually spoke German before I spoke English, but I was raised mostly in the US. And then we were for a while in Germany and a while in the south of France. So I hit, there's an interesting age. I interview other 20-somethings about this age too. Something happens at age 26. I really want to figure out what that is. But everybody I've interviewed, they just do this big life shift at around age 26. And it hit me then that I really want to know more about my birth culture. And I talked to my mom about it, and she said she would help support me. And she came over to Germany with me. I got a home, and then I was on my own. And it took a little while. I did a lot of teaching as a dancer. And what prompted me to leave New York was that was probably about the first bit where yoga would have been really helpful for me. The only thing I would ever change about my life is that I wish I would have gone into my first yoga class sooner. Definitely. But I was having a tough time after dancing with a couple companies to continue to find work as a dancer. I didn't know if I should be doing this anymore. And I went to Germany, and then I got a contract with a really good theater there. And when you dance, and back then in Europe, it's still to this day, dancers are a very highly regarded, respected profession. It's your culture is important here. And I had a really good contract. I had paid vacation, and it was just like the best job I ever had. Whereas in New York, in that period too, you tell someone you're a dancer, first response is they wonder what kind, wink, wink, nod, nod, and things like that. It's just this divorce of an awareness, cultural awareness. And 2 years in Germany was enough for me, and I really wanted to be back in New York for a multitude of reasons. And but I found my German resume then really helped me back in New York. And that's when I moved into musical theater, and I choreographed shows, and I worked on off-Broadway quite a bit. Never got to Broadway though, but that's fine. I was a working choreographer, and that was important for me. And that lasted. Then about the period where I discovered yoga. I got very strong too, and I danced in one more company before I did a little swan song. And during the swan song period, I felt like I wanted to go back to Europe. So this time I was going to try France. And I'm still here.
Nice. So what do you think about just culture in general, similarities and differences?
Oh, the world needs artists, period, full stop. That saves us. That's our humanity, in paint, music, theater, dance, that's where my heart is. And, we need art. If I could just get that over to the difficult pockets of the world right now and just open hearts that way, that's what I like to send out,
Do you think that everyone has an artist inside of them?
A creative spirit. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that it's wise to dive into what that is.
Mm-hmm. Feeds your soul.
And then, so certain cultures maybe promote that, certain cultures, certain families, right? Probably promote that more than others, right? Some look at that as a waste of time, not practical. Others look at it like it's the most important thing there is.
Well, you can find an art, like, for example, in medicine and surgeries, and families would want their children to take a more, a very upper white collar approach to making sure their future is secure. There's a way to bring art into anything, and I feel like most creative, successful lawyers use art. This was another interesting memory. Before my teacher training in New York, I wanted to go back to school. And I was juggling between back to school for medicine, to go to medical school, or go back and get a master's in arts. But anyway, I really wanted to go back to school. I had a number of doctor and friends in the medical profession. And they said, Michelle, we all want to do what you're doing. Don't go to medical school. I'll never forget that. And I applied for a master's program in Iowa. And then while I was waiting to hear the response, it was the third time that IYI asked me to do the teacher training, because every year they would ask me and I would say, no, yoga is what I do for me. I don't want to teach it. I teach enough things, this is my thing. And they said, it becomes more your thing when you know more about it. You don't have to teach. It's an immersion. And they were absolutely right. So I went in, I got immersed, I loved it. And basically a couple of weeks after I graduated, I was teaching. That's how fast it goes, unbeknownst to however, that was going to work for me. So I instead of doing the master's, I came here to Paris. I was teaching workshops here in dance, not in yoga yet. And I looked at apartments, and that's when I fell in love. So yeah, I wound up not going back to school until 2012 for yoga therapy. It's not a master's, but I did go back to school. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I took my first yoga teacher training, and there's a part of me that wishes we could communicate, and I think we're working on this actually, but communicate more clearly that it is immersion. It's you don't need to become a teacher necessarily afterwards. You may want to become a teacher, and you'll be able to if you want to, or you might just choose to continue on with your own practice. Yeah, I love that you said that, because that's how I felt too. And I think a lot more people would take yoga teacher trainings if they just looked at it like that too. Like, I don't need to make, and I wonder about this too, if we get ahead of ourselves trying to make decisions that are really for our future self instead of our present self.
Exactly. And not everybody is cut out to be a teacher, but we're all cut out to be immersed in something,
Right.
Fully, presently, to receive, to get knowledge. And then I just feel like, natural teachers are natural teachers, we shouldn't put that pressure on people. Yeah, if we've just called it yoga immersion. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this, so we'll keep working on it.
Yeah. When did you do your TT?
My first TT was in 2013. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Life changer.
Right there in Yogaville. Yeah.
No, my first yoga home was actually Kripalu.
I
And I
spent
hadn't
a
even
lot of
heard of
time up
Yogaville
there.
until a few years after that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at Kripalu before Yogaville as well. But IY Uptown was my definite entry into yoga. And then I was just super curious about everything. And yeah. Ah.
So integral yoga was your entry point.
That's why I call it my yoga home, because that's my entry point. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here for sure. I mean, I've studied a lot. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. What do you specifically appreciate about integral yoga?
Wow, there's just so much. It meets you where you are. Well, for me, I think at my heart, I'm a bhakti girl. And there's such a bhakti element to it. And not everybody is they'll go in more through dhyana.
How would you explain for someone who maybe doesn't know what bhakti is? What's bhakti?
A devotional aspect of it. I really feel a reverence to something, a higher power. I like, like as Nalini says, she calls it love. And that's my favorite word too, because other words can just become so polarized, and integral yoga is anything but polarized. It embraces everything. And at the core of it is love. And that's not a word I shy away from. And I just feel that love connects to something that always takes care of me, to put it very simply.
You mentioned that before, kind of like being taken care of, that life is not going to give you anything that you can't handle. Yeah. Being taken care of. I wonder, is this like a discovery like that you've had? Like maybe it was always there, but was there a part of you that might maybe doubted that or had some fear? And then at some point you had an experience where you understood, felt that I'm being taken care of by a higher force?
Yeah, I think that came from reading and practicing. Yeah, one of my favorite texts is Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads. You can't just go in there and read it once and go, You have to sit with it. And yeah, I would say reading and practicing. Yeah. And and the biggie, being in nature, I'm also an outside person. California, I miss it a lot. Nature tells you everything. Just go outside and pay attention. It's all there. Animals teach you. Yeah.
What do you learn from animals?
Oh my God. Present moment. Absolute present moment. Their eyes that, it will, depending on the animal, of course, my favorite is a dog, will always be. And just the love in the eyes of a dog, and just this awe of us that we just completely do not deserve.
Yeah, I said the other day, I was like, is there anything greater than the relationship between man and dog?
No. Yeah, that joy of that present moment joy, and how they know us better than we know ourselves. They pay attention to all of the nuances, the patterns, for example, my dog, even if I wanted to or needed to skip a meditation after I got up, she won't let me. She wakes me up, runs over to the meditation cushion, sits there, and it's like, this is what we do first. Then it's the kitchen. And then while I'm making the coffee, she has this routine of bringing the toys because when I do, she thinks Kriyas are hysterically funny. So when I do my Kriyas, it gets her all lit up and she brings the toys. So before I get the coffee done, I have to do my morning Kriya. So I've got my meditation in, I got my Kriyas in, then I can have my coffee. Then she gets that, and it's that that's the routine and that's their joy, and they just ground you with that. It's really sweet. It's really sweet. They tell you everything with their eyes, when they need to go outside, when they're hungry, what time it is. They teach us to pay attention.
Yeah. Because they're paying attention so well. That's what it's like. What does it take to do that? What comes to me is that it takes an acceptance of what the situation is. Mm-hmm. Like they're not trying to fight against the fact that they can't speak and use language to communicate with us. Instead, it's just like, what can I do to get the point across that I want to go out for a walk right now? Yeah. Then they figure it out.
They figured it out. She figured out how to bat the cell phone out of my hand. And I'm the yoga teacher. She's the yoga teacher. If it's too much here and you're not paying attention to me, she jumps. Here's my cell phone and knocks it out of my hand.
Wow.
She hates that thing. Yep.
She's confident, huh? That's amazing.
She just did it just home just before coming here.
God, that's what we really need. The dogs to start doing. She's got to teach the other dogs to do that. Knock the cell phones out of our hands.
Exactly. And then in the computer, she'll put her, her head between me and the screen. It's because, they follow our eyes. Yeah. But so if I tell her, okay, this is my writing time, I'll need to do this, she'll put her head right here, but her floppy ear will cover, this part of the keyboard. So I have to move the ear. But things like that, I'm just going to treasure the rest of my life. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
That is the treasure right there. Michelle, thank you so much. I really appreciate this time together. Everything that you
Me too, Avi. Yeah. I'm so happy we ended on dogs.
Yeah, it was perfect. Huh?
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this content and think others might as well, please feel free to share and subscribe.